Coming in at number 50 on the Locked On Senators 2024 draft rankings, we are going back to the US and TDP for left winger Max Plante. Grew up in a hockey family, and this guy's got the IQ that makes you believe it in a hurry.
Okay, Ross, I've got a lot of things I want to say on Max Plante here, but you've been holding out on me. You've had this tease dangling in a carrot over my head. I told you days before I like this kid. I had sent you articles. I was fired up, and you told me today there's something that
Red
you
flag.
need to bring up here. Red flag. I asked if it was because he's a Leaf fan. You denied that, so we're moving past that.
Worse.
What is going on here with Max
Well,
Plante? Let's just get this over with, and then we'll get into the player.
Any OG Sens fan, and Max, if you're watching this right now, he's about to laugh at us. It's not funny, dude. This broke my heart when I was 5 years old.
Oh, boy.
His dad is Derek Plante. That's like the first Senators heartbreak ever. Derek Plante, the defenseman for the Buffalo Sabres. He was a defensive defenseman. He scored the game-tying goal in the third period of Game 7 and then scored the overtime winner. And what does Max come out here and tell elite prospects? A lot of times to get myself pumped for a game, I watch my dad's Game 7 overtime winner. For shame. That hurts my heart. I legitimately, my jaw hit the floor. So I'm just not over it. That was my first hockey heartbreak. So Derek Plante's 2 goals in Game 7 in 1997. I'm not over it. And I know you're probably cheering for the Sabres because Hasek was in net. So
wait, what year was that?
97. It was the Sens' first ever playoff series.
Oh, nice. No, I was not cheering for the Sabres at that point. That's tough. Yeah, Ross's biggest heartbreak. Max Plante is just eating cereal every morning, just watching that on his iPhone just to get the day started.
What's next? Chris Kunitz's kid going to be in the draft?
Yeah, or imagine a guy like Travis Green coaching the Sens. Can't have it. Can't have it. Okay, well, that's obviously terrible. And
because usually it's a good thing when you grow up in a hockey family. They show you the ropes, but I don't know if this guy wants to follow in his dad's footsteps. I mean, the goal was in Buffalo. It was a road game for Ottawa. I had to do the research. I watched it again, and it hurt. Not as much as Jeff Friesen's goal in 2003, but this one was the first one. But that aside, this kid can play. He plays with pace. I loved the video that I watched on him. It seems like he's the kind of guy that's going to get a coach's trust because he's not going to do giveaways in bad spots, and he's always going to make the play that makes his teammates move, right? Like he wants a puck moving and feet moving all over the ice. So I could see him as a B game settling in as an energy winger that kills penalties and helps out at 5-on-5.
All right, Ross. Well, my bias towards him is not as strong as you, so I'm going to start this off with saying I'm very high on Max Plante, and I think we'll find a way to warp him into a Senators guy. I'm not concerned about that at all because, like you mentioned, Dad was a longtime pro, played in the NHL, DEL, Japan, and Swiss, and he's currently an assistant coach of the Chicago Blackhawks, and he was an assistant coach at Minnesota Duluth, where, guess what, Ross? You said, is Max going to follow in his dad's footsteps? Max is committed to the University of Minnesota Duluth. So he definitely has a lot of influence from his dad. In 51 games with the USNTDP, he had 15 goals, 46 assists, good for 61 points, so more than a point per game guy. His older brother, Zam Plante, is also a hockey player drafted by Pittsburgh. So this is a hockey family. I don't even know where to start with this kid, Ross. There's so much that I like about him. First off, that interview that you talked about, and I watched a couple of his video interviews. Really well-mannered kid, comfortable talking to the media, really polite guy, and it just seems like he's someone that lives and breathes hockey. Like he was very knowledgeable about it, wanted to answer a lot of the questions, and as far as his play goes on the ice, he played on a line with Yzerman a lot of the time, not Stevie Yzerman, but Cole Yzerman. And he just has such high-level hockey IQ. When you can play with a sniper like Yzerman, you need someone that can set him up. And Plant is such an elite playmaker. I think it made Yzerman's job a lot easier. Not to take anything away from him, obviously, but he's the kind of guy that he's going to drive a line. And if you put a sniper on his line, he's going to be able to set that guy up and it's going to be magic, just like it was this season at the USNTDP. So I'm a big fan of what Plant has to offer.
Plant is also the type of player that you can play, as you mentioned, with Yzerman, with good players, but also in roles that are more defensive minded. So I like the versatility that Plant has. He's 5'11, 170 pounds, a February 06 birthday, comes in with an average rank of 46 on the dot, only ranked by 2 with an honorable mention from Bob McKenzie. Craig Button has him at 34th and Scott Wheeler at 58th on their draft ranking. 61 points in 51 games with the US and TDP, plus 16 as well, and only took 8 minor penalties. So I think just a good player all along. I think he's going to be a player that might not have the ceiling of others in this range, but certainly I think there's less risk that the pick won't become a pro player.
Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure, Ross. I think that's a good way to put it. And the thing, like, how often do you find elite playmakers that are tough defensively? Like, his ability to read the play on defense is so good. He makes smart, responsible decisions with the puck in his own end. And he's a big part of that penalty kill over there with the program. And he talked about it in that interview I mentioned. He's like, I love killing penalties. Like, most of the time, you don't get junior prospects that like doing that because they're like, if I'm killing penalties, I'm probably not on the power play. I'm not getting those offensive touches or opportunities to make highlights and impress the scouts. Not for Max Plant. Like, he obviously is a guy from a hockey family, so he plays the game the right way, or at least is brought up to do that. So I don't see really any big red flags on this guy other than Ross's bias there. Now, a couple small things to note about Plant is scouts say he's got to get a little faster. So sometimes if guys on his line are speedsters, he's a step or two behind them. And he's an elite playmaker, but he's got to be a little more confident shooting the puck. You see only 15 goals there in 51 games, and he's playing top line minutes, like I mentioned. Sure, being an elite playmaker is a skill that he has, and it's important to do. But if you can't at least create the illusion that you're a dual threat, you're going to get guys just on a 2-on-1. They're just like, let's just fully block that pass and make this kid shoot. And if the goalie can see it, he can probably stop it. So he's got to work on being a better shooter so that his ability to be a playmaker will be opened up and guys aren't cheating on that pass.
That is Max Plant at 50 on our draft ranking. Sounds like could be a 5-star guy though, Pillsy. What do you have for the Sens stars?
Not a 5-star guy, Ross. Typically, you got to be top echelon to get 5 stars. I think I only handed out 2 or 3 last time we did our rankings, so not 5 stars, but not taking anything away from him. I'm giving Max Plant 4 stars, Ross. I even put in my notes, I think if they went for him at 39, I think it'd be a bit of a reach. But I think he's going to be a good NHLer in the long run. So if they're comfortable with the swings they take with their first round picks, and they're like, all right, let's get a safe, projectable guy that can be a good culture guy in our prospect pool, I'm down for Max Plant at 39.
And what I'll start doing here as we continue counting down is I'm doing my order as we go. So I'll give you the range of guys who I have comparable, not stylistically, but in terms of the upside where I would draft them. So I have Max Plant just ahead of Adam Yeko and John Mustard, and just behind guys like Julius Miettinen. But there's lots to like for Max Plant, especially for a team with a deep prospect pool.
But keep in mind, Ross, as you're doing this, you haven't seen prospects we haven't covered yet. So at the time that we're doing this, with the prospects that we've already covered, that's what Ross has them.
And to check out all of our draft profiles, go view it on YouTube.